If you work for a regulator or a supervision agency, then you know that our everyday practice is full of dilemmas and trade-offs. But which dilemmas keep you up at night? And what do you find are good ways of dealing with them? My name is Aalto Koster. This is Supervision Strategy. Some time ago, I was training the staff of a newly established regulator. And as a starting point for a discussion, I prepared a list of potential dilemmas in supervision. And I quite easily came up with a list of 100 different dilemmas and trade-offs. That made me realize just how riddled with dilemmas our profession really is. But to illustrate my point, here's a sort of standard supervision cycle. So for each of these 7 steps in this cycle, I will highlight just one dilemma attached to that particular step. Let's see which of these you experience most in your practice. First of all, which type of risk should you be paying attention to? Now, I discussed that briefly in my second blog post, so I won't bore you by going on about that again. Second, do you tackle a wide range of issues in your market? Or do you focus on a couple of major ones? At the regulator I worked for, we once made the mistake of focusing all our energy on a few huge problems. And that, we found, made it very hard to come up with some tangible results in that year. 3. So you require firms to send you information. But just how much? Because on the one hand, you may want lots of information that might improve your analysis. But if you actually have more information than you can handle, that can get you into some serious problems as well. 4. What is your primary goal in any given case? Is it deterrence, or is it a quick constructive solution? Because that will obviously require very different approaches, and sometimes you can't do both. 5. It helps tremendously if you understand why a firm either complies with a rule or ignores it. But just how much time are you willing to spend to really understand your target audience? 6. Standard interventions or customized? Well, I'm inclined to customized interventions, I guess, because it can be very effective. But of course, that can be hard to replicate in the next case. And 7, do you stress how many fines and injunctions you've imposed in a given year? Because you know the media and other stakeholders are usually very interested in those kind of numbers. But you know that these numbers really don't mean much in themselves. And you also know that at some point those numbers will go down compared to the year before. Now, if you want to contemplate these dilemmas a bit more, I've included them in the blog post on the Supervision Strategy website. But besides contemplation, how should we deal with these dilemmas? Now, obviously, it can be very useful to discuss these kind of dilemmas with your colleagues. But another way that you might consider is to articulate how you see these dilemmas and trade-offs in your strategy or in your organizational values. But you might also consider discussing a perhaps anonymous but tangible example of such a dilemma with external stakeholders. Now that may feel kind of vulnerable, I guess, but it may actually result in increased stakeholder support for your policies. But I would argue more important than all that is attitude. So in my opinion, these kind of dilemmas are inherent to our profession. So in fact, if you don't experience them, you're probably doing something wrong. This is why our work cannot be outsourced to an algorithm. It's why you and I might still have a job in 10 years from now. So I think these dilemmas and trade-offs are part of what makes our profession meaningful. And to me at least, that makes them a lot easier to handle. So what are your thoughts on supervision dilemmas and trade-offs? Let us all know in the comment section, or let me know at supervisionstrategy.com. Next time I'll touch upon thematic inspections. I'll discuss some pros and cons, and I'll highlight 7 pitfalls that regulators tend to fall for when they use this particular method. Until then, thank you for watching, and thank you for working on supervision.